Benjamin Franklin once said, "Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade?"
What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, where we talk about the best-selling books by best-selling authors and their best principles to help us live our best lives. My name is William Blake, one of your co-producers. We have Ian Sturmer, our other co-producer, and Mr. John Kovacs Jr., the founder of Champion Circle. Now, you might see some smiles on our faces, and that's because we're going to have some fun today as we go into another episode of Strengths Finder. Say that 5 times fast. I can't wait to go into it because today we're going to talk about not the principle in the book, but more about our strengths in general and throughout our lives. And more specifically about why do people hide their strengths from the world? It's such an interesting question. I can't wait to go into it. I'm actually going to turn it right over to John to start off the discussion because we're just going to have a fun day today.
Well, as we shared at the beginning of the episode, before the episode even started, Benjamin Franklin talked about strengths and talents, and he basically just called out the world and said, hide not your talents, like show them, share them. And I kind of brought up the question in my mind is like, why do people hide their talents? Why would someone feel the need or the necessity to hide their talents? I brought up the words playing small. I brought up the words adjustments, but it's so interesting to me why people would hide. And I wanted to ask the group that and share that question, because if we dive into it and we think about it, why do people hide themselves from the world? And the quick and easy answer might be fear, might be anxiety, might be that their strengths might overshadow someone else and make them feel bad. Maybe there's some empathy involved. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, why on earth? Why on earth? Why in the world? Hey, there you go. Why would any of us want to hide the strengths, the talents, the gifts, the things we've worked so hard to develop and build, as well as our innate abilities? Why should we hide those? Now, let's kick out all extremes. Okay? Let's kick out all extremes. If you're really good at murdering people, we don't want to talk about that. That's not the strength we're talking about. We're watching way too many scary movies since it's spooky season, right? But let's talk about the applications here. What is most important? My head's being chopped off by my own screen here. You have strength. And if I will if anyone would call them a strength, I will dare to say they're God-given talents, strengths, and opportunities. And so, my question to the group here, and I wanted to get kind of like a rapid fire response first, and then allow the responses to open us up into a deeper discussion. But why would you ever hide your talents from the world? And my answer is, well, a lot of people let their fear overcome their strengths. And if fear settles in, then they've been conquered. They're not conquering anything. They're overcome by fear itself. And remember, fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real, right? And we let our heads take over, and our physical or mental or psychological or spiritual strengths are neglected. They're incarcerated by fear. And I think that's too bad. What do you guys think? Why would anyone ever hide their strength from the world?
Well, I'll jump in on that. There's two ideas that come to my mind first with it. One is we're afraid we don't realize we have strengths, or we don't think those strengths are important. We think that they're just, everybody has that. I was talking to a friend not long ago, and she was feeling kind of depressed that, what do I have to give? What do I have to offer? And I started to list some of the things that she had accomplished and some of her strengths. He's, well, everybody has those. That's just normal. I said, no, it's not. Those are specific things to you. And I think a lot of us do that. We don't realize that the strengths we have some innate natural strengths, but we don't realize that they are a strength that not everyone has. They're unique to us. And we have to realize that they are an actual unique strength. There's something not everyone else can do. So I think that's the first one, is we just don't realize that we have a strength that's unique to us. And the second is we want a different strength. I sit in this group and I look at Willie and I look at his strengths and say, oh, I wish I could be more like Willie. I wish I could have that dedication, that desire to learn, that ability to put these things into reality, take the idea and make it reality. Mine aren't that important. Mine aren't that good. I wish I could be more like Willie. And I think we have that too. We want something somebody else has, and we forget the strengths that we actually have ourselves. So that's my thought on it.
I'd love to build upon that, because those are the two things that came up in my mind as well. The inability to be clear on what you want, and then I'll call it anxiety, because I'm thinking of the opposite with gratitude. The anxiety of wanting something different. And so with that clarity, it's, if you aren't clear, you are confused. And if you are confused, you are unwilling to take action forward, because there is the fear of the unknown. And if something's unknown, why get out of the comfort zone to get there? So the first thing I'd say when it comes to why do we hide strengths, I've done this several times, is I'm not clear on what I want. And if I want to become someone who shares their strengths and superpower, then it's to become clear on it. And then the second thing, I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but the opposite of what we have, what we're grateful for within us, it's the innate abilities that we're like, oh, what we do is average. Like in our minds, and maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the oddball out here, but in my mind, I think if I can do it, it's not important. If I can do it, it's average. And then I look at people like John, I look at people like Ian and say, they have so many great qualities that I would love to have in myself, whether or not I have them yet already. And it comes down to, we have what we have and we are what we are. And if we are wanting to truly share ourselves with the world, we can't bow down to the idols of things that we don't have yet. Because if we do that, we live in a world of scarcity. And anyone who lives in that world of scarcity will find very quickly that you neither get other people's strengths or your strengths. So you might as well live with yours, because at least you have yours.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And sorry, there's probably a delay on my side. So if I'm talking over someone, just forgive me, because I'm not going to hide my strength. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I love those thoughts, guys. And, when you guys let John drive the bus, we have quite the thrilling adventure. So I'm going to ask a really deep and maybe even a vulnerable question of each of us. And I'll start first, so you have a moment to think. But my question to each of you is, can you share a time that you recall hiding your strengths and immediately regretting it afterwards? Can you think of a time you hid your strength from the world and you immediately regretted it afterwards? And I'm asking myself this question on the spot, and it's hard to dig deep and think of really like specific times. But I remember working for a company, and this company was way out of my league. I got hired because I knew a guy, and it gave me a really great internship opportunity. And internships are, where you come to work early, you get everyone coffee, you push papers around, you do all the menial tasks, right? And you know immediately I knew I was worth more. I knew that my knowledge, my brain, my talents, my strengths, my ability to brainstorm, I was definitely worth a lot more than the internship level. But this company was set on treating their interns like interns and allowing them to grow in that system. And so I had an opportunity to push back, to contribute, to ask to be in every meeting, to share my crazy thoughts and ideas, and share with a lot of my supervisors, which probably would have either made me a lot of enemies or would have landed me a lot more projects, would have kept me busier, and would have made me more involved at work, which means I probably wouldn't be going home until late nights. But I knew the risk, and I decided, you know what? This is just an internship. And I settled, and I sat there and I did everything I was supposed to do. I played by the rules. I did my work. I typed up reports. I did research, and I did what I was asked to do, and that's it. And I sent in my work at the end of the day. I clocked out on time, not a second after I was supposed to. And I would go and I would leave. And yes, of course, I had other things, life and amazing opportunities outside of work that I really enjoyed. And there was an ebb and flow. There was a give and take in this process. But I, after leaving that job and that experience, I had regrets, and I realized that I could have done so much more. Maybe I would still be in that public relations agency, working as a high paid supervisor or a manager or even an account executive. Had I actually turned around and added my talents. Or maybe I would have gotten fired halfway through the summer. Who knows? But I didn't take that risk. And I'm a risk taker. I'm an achiever. I love doing those things, because if I'm not pushing the needle, if I'm not fixing, if I'm not building things better, then I'm hiding my talents from the world. And I I left that summer regretting the full experience. I got what I needed to graduate from college and get my internship credits and all of that, and it worked out great. And I don't have any regrets in my life, but I do regret not shining differently in that corporate environment and adding what I knew I could do. And it's weighed on me, because I always think, what if I had done things differently? Who else could have I had in my life? What top-notch client or celebrity would I be best friends with because I've helped them, grow in their world? And these are thoughts I have. These are the things that keep me awake at night. So there's my answer to the question. I'd love to ask you guys, what's a time when you hid your talents and strengths from the world and immediately regretted it after?
One thing, if I can go, Ian, the first thing that pops up, I don't really regret much because I'm so just filled with gratitude for where I'm at right now. But I don't know if regret's the right word, but the thing that comes up of what I could have done better at is back in 2019. I know, so far ago, before the pandemic that plagued the world. Back in 2019, I got to see one of my mentors in person for the very first time. One of the people who they live in Canada. His name's Evan Carmichael, and he was doing a 23 city tour with every city that had over 1 million people in it, and Salt Lake City was one of them. So I'm like, oh, this will be so fun. So I drove all the way up. It took I got my wife with me, and we drove about an hour there, and then we showed up about 30 minutes before the event started. And luckily, we were one of the first ones there. Went up, talked to him, asked questions, shook his hand, got pictures. It was great. at the end, after the whole several hours of his training he picked 3 individuals to be able to have a one-on-one the next day. 2 people were individuals who traveled the farthest, and then the other one was just someone picked at random. So the first 2 started going off. This one person traveled from like super, I think it was another state that they came from. So they got the first one. And then the second one was someone that came from Provo. And I was also in Provo. And so we were talking about where we lived and such. And I realized that I had class the next day at the college I was going to. And because I had class the next day, the stigma of I can't miss class because I am a goody two shoes, because I am someone who shows up to class, and just like how I was raised of like, you have to go to school, don't miss class. Yes, I was that kid that did not miss class. So I even though I was a little bit further than he was, I gave it to him. And once I did, I instantly had this regret of I could have spoken up more and just went with the once in a lifetime chance. Instead, I gave it to this guy. And I'm like, oh, I wish that would have happened. Luckily, and I'll tell everyone who's listening, luckily, this does not happen. Second chances don't happen very often with once in a lifetime opportunities. But 2 minutes later, when they picked a random individual, guess who they pointed at? They pointed at this guy. They pointed at me and said, you're the random one that was chosen. So Evan looks at me and says, can you make it tomorrow at 1? And I had that second chance to go from instant regret to opportunity. And I said yes. So I missed class, drove up to Salt Lake, had a wonderful one-on-one interview with the guy. And it was in that moment that even though it was a good ending to a story, it's like in that moment where I said, you can take it. I instantly had that, man, I wish I would have taken it. So that when you say like, what is it that opportunity I missed? That's the one that always comes up, because I'm like, I wish I would have taken it. And then luckily it got a second chance. And so I did. And from that point, I'm like, I'm not going to let more opportunities fly by just because of things that I was conditioned with in my past, if that makes sense. So that's my story, guys.
Good one too. So the whole time I'm trying to think of a good example for me, and I'm looking at this list of strengths, and I'm going to kind of go with a little bit more generalization, just because I was struggling to find a good concrete example. And this is me pointing out my weaknesses, I think, in this instead of strengths. But I'm looking at self-assurance, input, achiever, those 3. And I think the first half of my life, maybe the first 2/3 of my life, I've always been afraid to step up, afraid to push those ideas, afraid to really make that input. And it's something I regret for a lot of my life. I know that I could have made more of an impact. I could have shared ideas. I could have made changes that I think would be positive. And it took me a long time to overcome that, to be able to speak up, to be able to do something like have a podcast where I come in and try and make myself sound really smart and really in-depth ideas. But I think with this, it's taken a long time to overcome it. But now I'm finding that some of those weaknesses that I regret, and because I regret them, because I look at my life and say, I know I could have done so much more, they're becoming more of a strength. That I can come here and talk to our millions of listeners that will get there, and say things, say my ideas, put out my input, and try and achieve things. So I think even though I don't have a really concrete idea that was one instance where I didn't do it, I think the whole idea, I recognize that in my life in the past, and I see how much more fulfilling my life is now that I'm willing to do that. So I guess I can't really look back and say I regret instantly that didn't happen, because some of those little regrets that I do remember are actually strengths, because they taught me, don't do that again. Kind of like when you stick your hand on the hot stove, you instantly learn something. And there's a little bit of gratitude that you did make that mistake, because now it becomes a strength that you can go out and teach people, don't touch the hot stove. Listen to me, learn, because I'm really smart. I know not to touch hot stoves. So
I love that. Appreciate you guys sharing that. The Joker inside of me was going to say something like, okay, well, since neither one of you want to share your regrets, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. I appreciate the stories and the thoughts. I think that opens up some deep thinking opportunities for our listeners. And I love that perspective, Ian, on seeing that mistakes or holding back led to a strength, which again, lessons learned. And I love that. Willie, thanks for sharing that too. What a cool opportunity it was to face to face with with one of your mentors. And despite the experience or how you felt about it, remember, we feel 10 times more than the other person does about our own actions and words and thoughts. And so, I believe that was an incredible experience for both of you. And to Ian's point, I thought that was really cool. But since John is driving the bus today on some of these crazy ideas, I don't want to keep us down in the regret conversation, because why people hide their strengths from the world isn't a negative conversation. It is an inspiring opportunity for us to look at these ideas and say, well, how do I shine? How do I do it? Because I actually had some PTSD growing up, where I knew I was the fastest kid on the playground, and I never ceased to unveil the hidden talent of John Kovacs Jr. And I would outrun, outsprint, outlast everybody in any sport, in any game. And I oftentimes was told by like even my girl crush, like the people that I liked, like, you're just such a show off. And they would say that. And I would go home feeling bad about why I was so fast. And my mom told me, it's because they're jealous, they're sad, they lost, they were angry. It has nothing to do with you. And that allowed me to become the athlete that I became, because I didn't hide my talents. I never pulled back. I never ran a race where I didn't give my all. And that was one of the strengths that I built over time. So my next question to the group is, most recently, think of a time when you jumped into action and you used your strength, even if it was not your strength, your strongest strength, but when recently, like within the last 48 to 72 hours, did you recently use one of your strengths and you immediately felt good about the work you did or do? I think that's an important question to reflect on, because we use these strengths innately. It's learning to recognize them that will draw out the idea that, hey, maybe Clifton Strength Finder maybe they've got a point here. Maybe Tom Rath and his Strength Finders 2.0 is trying to tell me something, that I have strengths and they're operating and they're really, really working on a daily basis. The other day, I'll share mine and then I'll ask the group, give them time to think. Since I'm not thinking, I'm just splatting words out.
that's one of your strengths.
It is one of my strengths. I work off of the hips, and yes, I mean shooting from the hip. The other day, I was in a meeting, and this meeting was one where it could have easily been one where I was working on things in the background, multitasking, smiling and nodding and pretending like I was actually engaged, even though I was doing other things. I did not need to be in this meeting, but yet I was asked to be there. And all of a sudden, I remembered that regret that I had years ago. And I said to myself, I need to be present and I need to involve myself more in this meeting and give of it so that there's value taken away. I knew that if I opened my mouth, that things would stir the pot. It would get things going. And in this meeting, I opened my mouth and I, instead of contradicting what people were saying, I immediately started to compliment various people in the room about how they were proceeding to act according to the challenges that they were discussing. And those compliments led to them being honest and open with the group a little bit more than they had been. And then they admitted and recognized that maybe they could do a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, the team and the group was excited to share more ideas. And the more we complimented one another, the more the meeting became valuable and fulfilling. And I recognized in myself that it's not me, it's the strength. It's activating, it's creating, it's curating an environment for success. And if you know anything about me and my story, is that when I was 16 years old, I learned that I had the power of curation as I became an MC and a DJ. And I learned how to take a room of duds and take the wallflowers and turn them into dancing fiends and make everybody feel the boogie in their arms and then in their legs. And so that is something that I absolutely will not hide from the world. And it happened just the other day. And I reminded myself, this is why I don't attend meetings and don't create value. So anywhere I go, I try to create value by remembering that I am a walking, talking, bursting bubble, Mario Kart star power of energy, strengths, and energy creation for other people. And there you go. That was my most recent experience. And it's as little as opening my mouth. How about you guys? As we sort of wrap today's conversations up, tell me a little bit more about a recent experience where you did not hold back your strengths and you recognized it. Go.
I will go and share with you guys my story that happened on Thursday. That was yesterday. Thursday was yesterday. Or maybe it was Wednesday. One of the days, my family and I went to Thanksgiving Point here in Utah. And it was a really cool place. Went to the Museum of Curiosity, which, man, if anyone's curious, that is the place to be to have fun. As we were there, they have a little outside path that you can walk around, and they have this koi pond. And in the koi pond, you can get food for them up at the front desk and be able to go up and just feed the little koi fish. And it was crazy because there was a lot. Like, we're talking like 100 or so fish that were just in there. And they knew that when you stepped up to that glass, they were about to get fed. So they're like jumping on each other. They were splashing us in the face. And as we were doing it, each of my girls had had their bags, and they were feeding the fish. I'd lift them up and put them in. And it looks like these grandparents walked around with their grandkid. And they're like, "Oh, this is so cool." And they were getting splashed as well, and we were having a lot of fun. The little girl was like, "Can I feed the fish?" And she said, "Oh, we got to go find the food." So we told them that there's food up at the front desk and that they can go get it. So the grandpa went and fed it. As I was lifting up my middle child to feed the fish, I was holding her bag in this hand and like trying to hold her up. Food started dropping in because the bag broke. Dropped in my hand because the bag was breaking. So she was finishing feeding the fish, and after it was done, tipped over the bag and a few dropped out. And obviously the fish loved it. I still had like a handful of food in my hand. So the girls threw their trash away. We're about to go. And I walked over to this little girl and I showed her my hand. And I said, "Hey, I was wondering if talking to the grandma, I was like, "Hey, I was wondering if I can give this to her to be able to feed the fish." And she said, "Oh, that'd be so nice." So I was trying to tell her to like cup her hand, but she kept grabbing it, which is fine. Kids are awesome. So she went up and went to the tank, and obviously too short because the tank was about like to my chest level, which is about 5 feet high. Kids aren't that high. And so I asked the grandma, I'm like, "Hey, would it be all right if I lift her up?" She said, "That'd be wonderful." So I go over and lift her up, and she feeds the fish. I give her the rest of the food, lift her up, and she feeds it. The fish are splashing and everything. It was just a great experience. She thanked us, and then we went on our way with the kids. And I remember as I walked away, I'm like, that's the kind of person that I love being. I love always thinking about other people. Like if they don't have an opportunity to do it, it doesn't sidetrack for my kids' fun to not give them the extra handful I had from a broken bag. But it would be more fun to be able to give it to the kid who didn't have their food yet, right? The grandpa was getting the food, but the to share that experience. And so it was a really cool thing to be able to share a fun experience that I had with my kids, and add even more people in there. So it wasn't just the 5 of us having fun; it was 8 of us having fun. And so that's the aspect of kindness and serving and sharing just shown out from that moment. And I'm like, I like that. I'm going to do more. So there's my story.
So that's the strength of just being pretty awesome. I like that.
Yeah, it's the strength of being Willie awesome. That's it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a new word for me. So I had an experience last night. The company I work for had a information kind of recruiting event last night that I went down to, and one of the people who came to it was the top guy in the company from California, who's been with the company about 30 years, just kind of a legend in it, and has just been incredibly successful. Um, and afterwards, a couple of us went out to dinner. So I was there, sitting next to this guy. And then there were a couple of younger people who had come over and were learning about it, and they joined us for the dinner. And this kind of fits what I said before about being afraid to speak up, afraid to say things. Here I was sitting next to one of the most successful people I've ever met in my life. Whether it's the size of the organization he's built, honestly, the amount of money he makes, not that that's the definition of success, but he's on that side as well. You know, he was showing his new yacht that he had bought, and talking about the new condo he bought in Dubai and all of these things. And I thought, well, I can either be the nobody sitting next to him, or I can say, you know what, I've got some strengths. And as we were talking to these younger people who were curious about the opportunity in the business and these things, that, you know what, I have input. So I was able to throw out some ideas. I was able to get them a little bit excited. Now, I'm not the cheerleader that John is for these things, but I try for a little quieter intensity and build that excitement within them. So I felt pretty good about the whole thing. This morning, as I was driving to an appointment just before this, I get a call from a friend of mine who's in this organization. And he says, "Oh, hey, I just got off the phone with Marcus, who is this person I talked to last night. He was so impressed with your leadership, with the excitement you brought in, and how you connected with these people." I thought, wow, I just got a compliment from the top guy in my organization, somebody I look up to as being just the definition of success in so many ways. So I'm excited that I was able to speak up, to show some of my strengths, to not be afraid of that, and then to see that recognized immediately. The fact that he went out of his way to tell a mutual friend of ours about the experience and to compliment me. So that was exciting for me, to remind me that I do have strengths, and when I'm willing to let those shine, then people recognize it. I could have instead said, "Oh, he's too smart, he's too successful. Let me just, shut my mouth and listen." But having a little bit more self-assurance than I had in younger days has really boosted, I shouldn't say boosted my ego, but boosted my confidence. That yes, I've become better at these things. My strengths are becoming stronger. So I was excited about that, just to boast about my experience.
I love that. You guys are so cool and full of strengths and talents, and I love hearing it. And just observe like the different energy in this conversation than the first question, right? When you think of talents as something that is, keeping you from opportunity, relationships, feelings, experiences, and more, you start to think less of yourself and you start to hide yourself from the world and you play small. But there is no excuse for hiding our strengths from the world, because every time we contribute, every time we give openly to the world benefits. And that world could be as small as our intimate family relationships with our children, with the people around us in that little bubble that we live in. Or it could be as big as the influence in a meeting or a stadium full of people or an entire nation that's looking at you and watching your every word and actions, aka we're coming up on the worst time of the world, aka voting season. Anyways, I should have a better perspective on it, but I just can't wait for it to be over. But again, that's a strength I'm working on. So anyways, I just wanted to share that and just take a look at the beauty in your strengths. Take a look at what it does, how it makes people happy. I know we're 5 minutes over our mark here, and I just want to wrap things up on my end and just say, I'm so proud of the strengths I have and I've been given. They make me uniquely different than the world. And if I try to hide my strengths, I'm going to end up being every other normal, nobody human being that tends to walk in the flock or be in the herd. And that's not me. And that's not you listening to this right now. You are more than to hide in the crowd. You are different. You are unique. You are special. And those talents are meant to be shared with the world. And shame on you, Shane, if you hide that from everyone else, because literally there could be, and there is somebody out there waiting for you to shine. That's John. I'm dropping the mic on that and passing it over to our team of awesome who runs this actual podcast. I'm literally just their guest. Sorry, guys. Not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Hiding my strengths is not my strength.
Sorry, not sorry. No, we are privileged to be able to have those questions today because they really dove deep into thought-provoking things that we might have not thought before. So thank you for driving the bus with us today as we handed over the reins to you, say, okay, John, don't kill us today. But you didn't. You did such a great job. And for all those you are listening, something else came up as we're wrapping this up in closing, is those champions who are listening. If you have the question of like, but what is my strength? What is the thing that I am great at? In my experience, the best way that I have found to discover your strength is to stop thinking about it and to just start serving people. Because when you serve people, you will innately within yourself start doing stuff that you are good at. So when you stop overthinking, stop really thinking and putting thought process into it and just go out and serve people, it will start to come up because your experience mixed with your knowledge and your innate talents within you will combine together into powerful results. And through that, you'll be able to find your strengths. So just simply go out and serve those people so that they can be champions as well as yourself. And with that, thank you, champions, for listening to another episode with us at Champion Reads. If you found inspiration in this, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, as well as you can go to our website, mychampionscircle.com, where you'll be able to find the link to our podcast, link to our social medias, as well as everything else that's going in the Champion Circle universe. And until next time, my friends, continue to be awesome. Continue to go out and be the champions in your lives. And always remember that you are great. And you are really, really great. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.